Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome back to the Nasty Gram RPG podcast. This is episode 5, Manifest Thyself.
Feeling it too hard is the poison to the heart of a cynic.
Walcar, where you been? Were you there when that sumbitch shot me? Nah, I didn't blame you the last time. I'm sure shooting and not blaming you for this. A little warning would have been nice as all. Now, I know you can only tell me what I'm ready to hear, but I wouldn't be hearing nothing if I'm dead. You say it weren't my time, but sometimes I ain't so sure if you know all you say you know. And what about that smoke? You see that? Yeah, Mr. Keene said all that swirling and spinning were some kind of unnatural apparition that threw that fella that shot me right into the fire. I don't know about that, but sure weren't me. Between Mr. Burke talking about some multi-generation conspiracy from way back before the Marlowes even came to America, and Mr. Keene asking Mr. Beauclair about possessions, I was done lost. Well, then again, maybe that was just Mr. Beauclair's moonshine. On the way out here, Mr. Marlowe told us his ma was down the other fork of the tracks. What's that? You say we'll be meeting her real soon? You say so. Mr. Burke's speech sure got the crew all riled up. At least we know how those men on the bluff got Mr. Marlowe's fancy rifles now. Turns out one of them were the locksmith. But the real reason I'm talking to you, Walcara, is this. What's the deal with those handprints? I ain't ready? Some good you are. Don't know why I let you ride along. I know. I don't have a choice in the matter, but... someone's stirring. All right. Next time.
Hi, this is your storyteller, Jacob.
Hey everyone, this is Dan playing Silas, the photographer and ghost hunter, previewed on Sci-Fi Channel this week.
Hey everyone, it's John. I'm playing Noah Fashnacht, the forgetful gunsmith, apparently.
Hey guys, it's Ryan. I'm playing Les Kershaw, the former Pony Express rider and current spelunker.
This is Josh. I'm playing Kingsley Burke IV, and I'm available to hire to inspire your own working party for just a few coin.
Lord. What's up? I'm Matt, and I'm playing Benton Beauclair, the voodoo priest war veteran.
All right, and we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into this.
Before we do, are we doing any nominating for?
Yeah, do you have something?
I do.
Did you listen to the last episode?
I did.
All right, what do you
So
think?
you get one for listening.
Yeah, I get one for listening, right?
You're not allowed to give Josh one for oration.
No, but I am giving one to him for Craven because
All right.
at nearly every opportunity to be Craven, but in a subtle. In an understated way, I think he did a great job at that.
A gentleman's craven, if you will.
Yeah.
I like it. Go ahead and take that point. Point of willpower.
I need it so desperately.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is December 20th, 1 p.m. There were just shouts from Silas that he found something, and already the workers are gathering around the edge of this mud slick. You've ordered them not to step on it, as you don't want them to disturb the scene. Kingsley Burke and Benton Beauclair come to the top of this crest, this hill, where you can see the workers gathered around this mud slick, and you can see Silas in the middle of it looking at something, and you start picking your way slowly down the rocks. It's cold, but you're still sweating just from the exertion. And you make your way to the edge of this slick section of mud, and you all see what Silas is looking at. In the middle of the mud, with no prints around it except his footprints walking out to it, are two women's handprints.
This is, how close is this to the location where the gunman ambushed us?
Very close, within 100 feet.
What have you found there, Silas? Someone seems to be playing in the mud.
It is not so harmless as that. It is most irregular. There are only handprints.
I didn't know you could do a handstand, Mr. Keen.
Oh, no, you're down in the
I'm still in the canyon.
You stay in that
Scratch
canyon.
that.
You're spelunking.
You get back in that canyon.
That's quite impossible. They must be walking along the rocks, and
There are no rocks.
Kingsley starts
Look at the evidence around me.
walking forward on his cane, not into like where Silas is himself, but just to the kind of the perimeter of it and looking down, clearly looking for a logical explanation. Well, I don't quite understand. He looks to his side and looks at Benton and then realizes he's not going to get a logical explanation there and looks back over at Silas.
Marlowe says, all right, everyone get back to work. Give these men some space. We need to get to the bottom of this, and I can't have you all mucking everything up.
No pun intended.
Meanwhile, Les, you're at the bottom of that canyon. There's a couple guys down there now getting to work, and they're kind of talking like, oh, what's going on up there? You know, they don't really know. But as you're down there, you look to the side of the canyon where the train is, and you see Noah. What is Noah doing?
Noah is walking across the train track, in one arm like a satchel with paper, and his other arm he's holding the crankcase and hammer of the Gatling gun. He steps over midway over the train, the chasm, and tosses it into the canyon, and continues walking across.
You see this big wooden box arch through the air and then smash on the rocks.
And Noah tries to find Silas.
Okay. So I'll assume at this point that the two of you both make your way towards the action. Meanwhile, Benton, Silas, and Kingsley, what's going on?
Silas is going to kind of half squat down and take a closer look at the handprints themselves.
Okay. Definitely a woman, thinner, a little smaller than a man's. The nails are a little long. You can actually make out an insane amount of detail just because the mud was just the right sort of viscosity.
How
to
deep
hold
is
it.
it? Is it pressed into the mud?
As deep as, I mean, if you were to kneel down and push your hands in, so not violently deep and not just superficial.
Sure.
You notice that, well, actually, why don't you give me a roll and we'll see what you notice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Roll the die.
Roll the die.
Can Kingsley make one as well here?
Yeah, if you want to walk out there.
I'm walking around the edge of it, just close enough that I feel like I'm not going to disturb anything.
Okay.
I guess Benton's going to check it out as well.
Sure. All right. Why don't you all roll insight and intelligence for me? Unless you think you are going to do something else, and you can always pitch a different roll to me if you want.
I was going to say investigation, but it's the same roll.
Oh, I'm sorry. Investigation, not insight. I forgot that was a different thing. Yeah, so investigation and intelligence.
3 successes for Kingsley.
2 for Benton.
They're
3 for Silas.
quite fine, delicate. A woman's touch.
Silas nods. He doesn't say anything. He's kind of studying them, looking at them more closely.
Josh, from the perimeter where you are, it's hard to make out a lot of detail about them. But one thing you do notice is that the mud is still kind of wet in this whole area. You do see a couple little animal tracks that kind of trod through here and there, but there isn't really a way to get out there. The only way someone could walk out there is if Silas walked directly on their footprints. You're pretty sure with your investigation roll of that.
I guess what I'm most looking for is, does it look like someone was like leaning down, putting their hands in it? Or I guess in a way I'm kind of like, is it like a footprint where like if you're running, like it's not like a smooth impact. It's like...
you can see like a little bit of the forearm, which makes it seem like they weren't walking on their hands or something like that.
I mean, I guess like it doesn't look like they're dragged.
No, it doesn't look like they're dragged. The other thing that I'll give Kingsley is that you have seen a lot of women who kind of work the fields and stuff, and their hands are usually a lot more sort of arthritic and gnarled. These are the hands of a woman who has never had to work hard.
Are there any jewelry?
Yeah, but you don't notice that.
Okay.
I'm going to give that one to Silas. Silas, this woman is wearing a wedding band, and she is also wearing a thick ring on her pinky of her left hand.
The woman, she was married.
All right. Well, again,
However impossible it is, it exists. Yes, Mr. Burke?
perhaps she was being carried away. I mean,
You see Silas's eyebrow raise.
These were not there on the night, or perhaps we wouldn't have noticed them.
Jake, has it rained in between?
No, it didn't rain yesterday. And also in the dark, you guys didn't even really come over to this area, but you wouldn't have seen it in the dark. You guys show up.
Do I see any lupine tracks as well?
Cyprus. Like the island. Cyrus, I have your manifest. Yeah? Make sure...
When you get there, Noah, you notice that they're all standing around kind of nervously. Silas is in the middle of this mud slick, and no one else has kind of passed that threshold to move towards him. So you kind of start talking, and then you realize, like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Silas says he's obviously having a conversation with the people around him, and he hasn't really registered you coming in. And he says, she was married and she had another ring here. He's kind of tracing it out with his hand above the handprint, which you said on the index finger?
Left pinky.
Left pinky, excuse me.
Silas would notice the pinky ring.
Mr.
Timothy Chalamet. He's got a couple.
Yeah.
Herr Beauclair, what are they talking about? What? Those prints?
We they are a woman, so not a bird.
What do you mean? You think they are the prince of what? And then Noah kind of shakes his head.
What else?
As you guys are talking, Kingsley, you see him kind of like slowly trying to make his way out to the middle. And what he's doing is he's trying to like find rocks or pits of dry land. Like if he was going to try to get out there and not leave prints, he's trying to replicate that. And I'm assuming he's failing.
Yeah.
It
Be
is
careful, Mr. Burke.
2 female handprints in the mud, 100 or so feet from where Mr. Dawson was.
Well, how did they get there? Was there any footprints or?
No, we cannot find.
Scheiße.
Jake, is there any sort of role I can do? And I don't know if there's context here, but there are tribes that will like paint themselves with their handprints and stuff. Does this look at all like it could be in those sort of positions, or does it just look like someone touched their hands down and that was it?
It doesn't look like
It has any symbolic.
It's tribal, or it doesn't look like it's religious or artistic.
What's the symbology of it?
Well, especially because the woman has a wedding ring. So
That's true. I was kind of thinking of his mom.
Young Mr. Kershaw, my brother Charlie, he mentioned having tracked some Indian raiding parties and their adeptness in hiding their passage. Do you find any indications? I know you've had some time out in the Western lands. Do you think this might be some obfuscation at play here?
Mr. Burke, you think they just swept the area but left the handprints kind of as a goof for us to find, or?
Maybe he thinks tribe here walk on their hands only.
Well, I don't think that they were trying to clear up any tracks up here. I just might have cleared those handprints are out there like that, but
walk in single file to hide their numbers.
Silas, here your manifest for your equipment.
Well,
can you make sure it is correct?
He says
very like,
and he seems kind of distracted, like he's studying these handprints and then looks up to you, and he kind of, you see him, yes, just a moment, and he takes out a small sketch pad and he makes he's going to make a quick rendering of like the handprint where the rings were.
Okay.
And then he'll kind of like pull his feet from the mud and start tracking back the way he came in to try to leave it as undisturbed as possible.
Noah is like going insane right now, waiting for him to look at this.
Mr. Beauclair, Mr. Kershaw, I do not claim to know the ways of the tribes of this area, but I mean, I do not believe that there are any that are walking around on their hands. So clearly there's another explanation, and it strikes me that someone must have known we would be coming back out here, and if this conspiracy is larger, they are trying to throw us off the trail, or are trying to in some way make it so that we cannot reconcile what is transpired here.
You have experienced tracking?
I certainly have not.
No.
This is why
you can tell. I do. I track many things in the war. You see the depth here? It looks like a pool, and a Benton will get down and kind of put his hands down and kind of make like a motion where it like he's propelling himself forward, like springing on his hands.
Kingsley kind of settles back uncomfortably and says, are you perhaps insinuating that we are hot on the trail of some sort of trapeze acrobatists that may have
I can read the newspaper article now.
I mean,
I'm not sure but this strong?
Yeah, it weren't a circus train we were on, Mr. Burke. Just a regular type train.
Yes, I understand. I just please reconcile what you're observing with something that could actually make sense in front of this. I mean, you do not believe a woman walk through here on her hands alone, without any pass or trace to or from. I mean, what are we discussing here? These are a woman's or perhaps a child's handprints. So, who was she? And you say you're skilled at tracking. I mean, do you believe she passed this way, but before or after the incident of the night before? Kingsley is getting a little bit agitated. And maybe it's coming off as frustration, but he's clearly like just uncomfortable with like the idea that there's no fucking explanation to what you guys are talking about.
Poor Mr. Burke, surrounded by a team full of molders.
Miss Kershaw, can you help me? And we'll stand like back to back over these handprints, and you walk opposite direction. We
Perhaps a wheelbarrow race or something.
maybe
Are we standing back to back like opposite characters, like at odds on a sitcom? Like,
yeah, exactly. And we'll just like walk away from each other.
yeah.
Look, any other signs? Maybe broken branches or trees, disturbed rocks. Keep going. And I'll just start walking off probably like 20, 30, 40, 50 feet in the opposite direction looking for any other signs of prints.
Okay.
Yeah, Noah's standing there with like the manifest handed out to Silas, fairly insistent. Silas, please, if you would.
Yes.
Dan, I sent you a nasty gram about that.
Okay.
Mr. Fashnak, is this the right time to be worried about our earthly affairs? I mean, we will make sure that we get everything, and if not, we'll...
My manifest is probably quite long.
Yeah.
If the railroad, in some way...
we need to know if Mr. Silas brought anything that he didn't remember bringing.
You hear me kind of muttering things off, like going down the list.
In the cart with my things, one of my Gatling cannons was stowed away. I did not bring it. I don't remember bringing it, but it was mine.
It is an oddity. There is an outlier here.
Interesting. Kingsley kind of, he moves towards the both of you, like...
There's a new mystery
Kind
that
of
might be a bit...
eager to fucking...
Ooh, a paperwork mystery.
That's my speed.
I have some points in these categories.
Some bureaucracy I can handle? Yes.
Silas holds up the piece of paper so that you can see it, and he points to a line item.
Mm-hmm.
This, while I do carry this chemical, not nearly anything in this quantity.
Well, who made up this manifest?
This manifest is an inventoried list from the conductor.
Mr. O'Sullivan made this list?
No, O'Brien on Deep Space Nine.
The potato-headed gentleman.
Yes.
Oh, me.
Wait, is that true? Or
I just BS that.
I would imagine
it's-
a
I
list
improv that.
of his stuff.
you probably did it with him
Sure. Yep.
and signed off on it. Yeah.
It's a list that we catalog together, and then my signature here at the bottom approves it. But this line item, this is not what we discussed. Nitrocellulose is a very dangerous chemical to transport, especially in this quantity.
okay, paperwork error.
John, you're familiar with that chemical as well.
Yeah.
It's well, if you want, you can look it up, but it's extremely volatile, and
Okay.
explosive, and flammable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's used for
Flash paper.
gun cotton.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, the quantities of that
It's
chemical
400 pounds.
would, well, it would destroy a building, yeah, and maybe more.
Flatten it.
And what reason would I have for bringing a Gatling gun to to Marlowe's estate? I did not remember doing this. It is distinctly mine.
Ms. Fastnacht, I've not been deeply of your acquaintance for too long, but I do not imagine you to be a man who would forget bringing such an item.
Yeah.
So who was it that, did someone assist both of you in preparing your goods and packing them?
Nine. I packed everything I had on my own. Most of the stuff I had, including that Gatling gun, was packed for travel to Europe. Everything else that I brought with me, I packed myself.
My photography studio, the cart that I bring with me, it is rather precise. The chemicals I bring are measured and quantified. That amount of chemicals would be akin to bringing reams of paper if you were to just go on a short journey and needed to write home.
I understand. And yet I know we were here on a rush and other matters had a focus, but you both signed off on these matters.
I would have procured this chemical myself.
Dan,
There
it's
is no
also
way.
it's also and you would know this too, John.
Yeah.
It is recklessly dangerous to bring that much of this chemical. It's like it
On a moving
explodes
train.
if it's too warm out.
Yeah.
On a moving train.
I do not believe I have been able to impart how serious this is. This could have leveled the train from the station. This is a highly volatile
We
chemical.
are very lucky to be alive now, including with the chasm. With this chemical could have gone off in any circumstance.
I carry at best perhaps a pound with me. There is 400 pounds on this manifest.
Scheiße.
Well, I mean, I wish your due diligence had been applied 2 nights prior when this list was signed off on. No offense intended, but
I cannot
is
have
this your
that
signature?
on my cart. It would not fit. It is impossible.
Why don't we all take this opportunity to roll composure and resolve?
Okay.
I think we've introduced
Enough stressors.
some spook.
A little spook.
Keep looking at my D&D character. I got to get this.
Get that out of here.
2.
Dose.
2 for Kingsley.
2 for Noah.
Okay.
It's wits and composure.
Yep.
For
Composure and resolve.
I'm sorry. Yeah, composure and resolve.
These things might not even be on the train. This could be a paperwork discrepancy. I mean, minus you've laid your eyes on this Gatling machine.
I've taken the gearbox and hammer out of the Gatling gun and thrown it in the chasm. For whatever purpose this Gatling gun was brought with me, whatever possession, and then Noah stops. Whatever took over my mind to do this.
Silas flashes a look at you when you say possession.
We are dealing with something. There is some. I hate to say it, but the devil is here. Yeah, Satan has his hands in this.
How'd everyone do on that roll?
2.
2 for
A
Ryan.
lot of deuces.
2 for everyone except Dan.
Yeah, Uno.
Dan, did you get your extra dice for your
Oh, no, I
merit?
didn't.
Matt?
2.
Still.
All right. So everyone
7
passes
dice, 1
except
success.
Dan. Dan, you lose 1 point of willpower.
Dear Lord.
Good rolling.
Kingsley kind of like is a little taken aback and looking around for kind of collecting himself. And he says, what exactly are Mr. Beauclair and Mr. Kershaw doing right now?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I believe it's a waltz, Mr. Burke.
So, Matt, your intention was to look for kind of spread out from that area and look for more clues?
Yeah. I guess using, Benton's like hunting, tracking sort of history. He's looking like if this thing were fast, like if it pulled itself forward, it's probably moving in a straight line. And if there's no other tracks, it's probably a good distance. Like if a cheetah was sprinting, the footprints would be, 8
I
to
see what
10
you're
feet
saying.
apart.
Yep.
So
Or
he's
a
just
puma. Yeah.
Yep.
walking in a straight line away from this, so that we're like back to back, and we walk away from each other in a straight line and see if we can find some other track of this woman moving.
I see.
So you're thinking it's moving as a quadruped?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'm game.
You guys do that. You move in both directions, and you don't find any other tracks or anything out of the ordinary.
Kingsley's taking a stroll back to the horses.
Going to get some laudanum.
He's going to gather himself and take a little dose, and he's thinking everyone's getting a little hysterical, and he's going to go kind of clear his mind and recenter himself.
Okay.
I did we mention how deep these handprints are? I might have missed that.
Yeah. Not. I just said that they're not so deep that someone like was putting all of their weight on them, but they're they're deep.
So wheelbarrow race is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Here. All right.
Silas is clearly distressed over the news of the manifest and coupled with the rather inexplicable situation, which I think he was more in wonder about the handprints than he was like flustered by it. But the train situation, he calls down to Kingsley when you're probably like 20, 30 feet away. Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Do not go to that train.
Just going back to the horses.
You see Silas nod from up the hill, and he turns to you, John, and he says, "Is there anyone on board the train now?"
Sullivan, yeah. The conductor was there. We need to get them away from that train.
Silas is nodding, and he kind of at that prompt, he kind of springs to and starts kind of like jogging, kind of that quick jog down a hillside where you're kind of taking big steps at a time, and he's going to make his way to the bridge.
Okay. Yeah, you get down there without a problem to the chasm. Are you trying to cross? All right. So you make your way across, and Mr. O'Sullivan meets you.
Yeah, I kind of holler to him on my way towards the train and try to bring him, like, get his attention and get him to come off the train.
Yeah, he comes kind of to the edge of the chasm. Like, he doesn't come out on the rails because it is still dangerous and, it's a big drop. But he's kind of holding on to the end of that rope and, like, kind of yelling towards you as you approach. Like, well, what is it?
I need you to stay away from the train.
He seems a little bit confused, and he kind of just waits there.
Yeah, I kind of going as quickly as I can, kind of over the rope bridge.
You get across, and he says, "Mr. Keene, right?"
Yes. I apologize for the drama, but I need to be certain that this manifest is simply incorrect, and it doesn't actually have what it shows here. Has anyone been in my carriage?
No, I've got the key here. Mr. Foshnock asked for the ledger, and I think he was a little shooken up about something in his cart as well.
May I have the key?
Sure. He takes the key out, and he doesn't hand it to you. He just starts walking towards the...
I think it best if you stay here.
Very well. It's the fourth cart.
I understand it's irregular, but for your safety.
Sure. He gives you the key ring and holds up which key it is.
I make my way towards the fourth.
You unlock the cart and you roll that door open and climb up there. And you see several barrels of this stuff. Dan, one thing that Silas kind of realizes looking at this, and maybe this is why you failed that willpower check, but just the logistics of getting this much of this material. There's not a lot of rules at this point and regulations about these kind of controlled substances, but you know that you would have had to go to chemical manufacturers that you work with, and they would have asked you, like, why do you want so much?
Sure.
You probably, actually looking at the barrels, you see that they come from different manufacturers. Like, you probably weren't able to get it all from one person just because it would have been too suspicious.
I wasn't able to get
it. The more you think about it, the more it feels like this kind of vast conspiracy almost of like the amount of work that would have gone into getting this material. And not to mention how insanely dangerous it is.
Is there a way to get it safely off the train?
It's because it's kind of cold out. You feel pretty comfortable moving it. It in extreme heat, it will explode. Or if it's exposed to any sort of like fire or anything like that, it can be pretty flammable. This is the stuff that was used in like early like projector film.
Yep.
Which is why there were so many like bad theater fires.
Yeah.
I think it's called
roll it.
collodion.
Roll it out.
Roll it out?
You just roll it out of the train.
Oh, yeah. Just give it a boot,
Yeah.
you know? I am going to... There's 4 barrels.
Yeah.
I am going to try to get it off of the train.
Okay.
How heavy? Are they 100 pounds?
Yeah, you probably can't do it alone.
Sure.
I'd help, but I'm not.
So sorry.
Because of the leg and all.
I leave the door open and I walk back to O'Sullivan.
Okay.
I'm kind of nervously sweating.
Something wrong?
Yes. Are you familiar with flash paper or gun cotton?
Sure.
There is an extraordinary amount aboard that train.
Why?
I have no idea. I wish I knew. You would have remembered such a thing, would you not?
To be honest, I didn't really look over your manifest. I mean, that entire cart is bought and paid for by Mr. Marlowe, so wasn't my business to control what you're bringing to him.
Bought and paid for by Mr. Marlowe. Give me a moment. And whatever you do, don't go aboard that plane.
All right.
Train.
Plane.
Yeah, the plane.
It's a train.
It's a train.
It's a train.
I hear you
Whatever
now.
I say, whatever you do, do not go aboard that train.
You got it.
Silas is going to make his way back across.
What are you guys doing on the other side?
Marlowe's over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Noah goes up to.
We'll say he went off and kind of kept all the workers busy and away.
Yeah.
Because I forgot that he was there.
Yeah.
But you guys gonna kind of fill him in a little bit, or
Yeah, I'm
okay?
Can we talk for a second about what Ryan's drinking?
What is Ryan drinking?
It's a fucking Sour Patch Kids energy drink.
Oh my lord!
You gotta get him early.
Really living his teenage days.
Wow.
What is it called?
Crazy.
It's I get the candy and the energy drink all in one.
But
Is it just
smart.
blended up fucking Sour Patch Kids?
how does it only have
Without
5
sugar.
calories?
Yeah,
Though?
I don't
Sugar doesn't make
understand
calories.
it.
What?
Yeah, it's
What's it called?
We have to sign away 6 months of your
it's
life every time.
yeah, it's Ghost apparently. I think
This podcast brought to you by Ghost.
Yeah,
Is it made of gun cotton and cellulose?
it is.
Nitrocellulose.
No, it's like a second edition haste potion. Like it takes a year of your life away.
I forgot about that. Only elves could cast it, right?
There's Panax Natto Ginseng root extract.
Okay. Jesus Christ. All right.
That's good. That's good for
All
you.
right. Kings is going back to safer things like doing laudanum.
Back in my day.
Yeah. So you guys are as Jake
Jake's
grabs a
sticking to the
monster.
monster.
There goes your liver.
It's the-
Wait, did you give up the monster?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just can't have any caffeine right now because I will be crawling up the walls.
Yeah, it's like a Tuesday night routine for me.
Yep.
Crawl up the walls. All right. So you guys kind of fill in Marlowe while Silas is on the other side. And yeah, so you're the 5 of you are kind of standing around putting together the pieces of what you found here. And take it from there.
Noah is kind of bringing James up to speed. He says, James, you must be truthful with me, yeah? Did you order or did you somehow arrange for my Gatling gun to be aboard that train?
Absolutely not.
Do not lie to me, James. What? I
No.
need to know the truth.
No, I wouldn't do that. And if I wanted you to bring it, I would have just asked you to bring it.
What is going on? Are people losing their memories? Is someone controlling
People
us?
losing their minds is maybe more of the question, and I'm not casting accusations. We have
This is a guy with like tiny pupils.
Woo! You guys are freaking out, man. We've been through quite an ordeal. I know I've not had some of the experiences some of you all have in the war and other events. And I can say that these things have certainly rattled me. But I think we must be honest with ourselves and try to assess if maybe some of these things are affecting our reasoning and take a deep pause here and let's gather ourselves. If we're trying to,
What reason is there that I would mistakenly pack aboard a 300-pound Gatling gun on a cot going to meet a friend of mine? Where is the reason in that?
Silas, you're coming across the bridge and you can hear him. He's kind of raising his voice. So you catch that part
It's
of the
coming down the
conversation
hill.
as you approach.
Is he coming across with a barrel?
No.
Hey guys.
Rolling it down the fucking rail.
Fucking Donkey Kong.
Says TNT on it.
can Kingsley, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how well I know Noah and Silas. I know I have some history with them. I think Kingsley considered himself a good read of people and a good judge of character. Does basically, can I assess, do I think that they might be not in their good wits?
Why don't you roll insight and resolve?
Silas is working his way up the hill now, sweating away.
Oh, 6 successes
Yeesh.
Wow.
on 4 dice.
Okay. They're obviously shooken by what has happened. But you don't think that you think that they're very surprised by it. And trying to find an explanation. You know that Noah has always seemed like a very analytical person. He's a little on the religious side, it seems, but he does always kind of look for the logical scientific explanation. And he still seems to be doing that. He's still trying to pursue every logical course. But you don't think he's lying, and you don't think that he's hysterical.
He's not a woman after all.
Yikes.
That's all like time period correct.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah.
We're not playing the 1950s right here. Kingsley says, well, I just don't quite understand. Mr. Beauclair, do you think, are we all under a spell? Are we under some sort of voodoo curse, which is making everyone lose their memories and their perception of the events surrounding us? I know things are strange here, and matters of life and death are at stake. Believe me, I feel this to my core. But we must not lose reason in the grip of these events.
No.
Oh well, in that case,
Mr. Kingsley, do you believe in God?
yes, of course, I believe in the Maker, and
And do you believe in the devil?
I do believe in the influence of something quite opposite. I also reconcile the fact that I think many times through mankind's history we have attributed events and derives to things that are beyond ourselves to compensate for things we are gripped with.
Those are things that we justify after the fact, years perhaps after the fact. These are things that are happening to us now. These are people who are wishing us harm without justification. These are people who were upstanding members of a town who decided to take up arms and steal 2 sniper rifles from Marlowe to kill us on the way here. We are in the midst of something dark. There is no the rational explanation is that there's a darkness that surrounds Mr. Marlowe, and it is obvious, yeah? You saw it in the history, his family.
Marlowe says, I think we need to move on. I don't want to keep talking about this here. We're making quite a scene. Let's let these men do their work, and let's get back on the road and start heading back, and we can talk while we ride. Unless you think there's something else to be found here, I'm going to pack my horse up.
Well, we need to make sure that the train is safe. We need to take the chemicals off.
No one has walked up to check the bodies, right?
No, we did that at the end of the last game.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
As you're kind of saying that, Silas makes his way to the.
Are they there, Silas?
He's breathing heavy, and he takes a handkerchief out and kind of mops his brow. Yes, they're there.
Yeah, well, let's go and take them off the train. Help them make sure that they are secure or destroyed.
Silas holds up his hand. General, did you order those aboard the train?
I did not.
All right, God damn it, that is about enough. Kingsley kind of looks back to the workers as he says that, and realizes he's raising his voice and says, "We need to be on our way, and we need to get to grips with what's happened here. What has happened here is a matter of the action of men. Men shot at us. Men stole those rifles, fired down upon us. Men have loaded that train with whatever it is. We cannot lose ourselves to this coincidence of matter and strange events. We will have no chance of overcoming this if we lose our grasp and lose our trust on each other."
Men and women. Benton points down at the handprints.
Yes, people. I'm discussing.
That is not true, Mr. Burke. There are things at play here that go beyond the mundane. And if we only focus on the mundane, we will not see it.
If you lose sight of the mundane, you will have no chance of explaining what is occurring here.
Gentlemen, can we ride and talk?
Yes.
Well, first we need to clean up the train, yeah?
Okay. You guys
Well,
clean up
yeah.
roll. See if you
Okay.
die.
All right.
Kingsley moves probably about as quick
I die.
as you've
What's
he walks quickly to the horse and gets on and spurs it and trots off down.
Doesn't use the cane at all. Just
Yeah, it seems to be moving pretty good.
a lot of
I let the
About as agitated.
welfare department know.
taking pictures.
We're going to jump ahead a little, but before we do that, while you guys are moving that, Kingsley, you kind of spur your horse and move, start moving along. And one of the workers actually breaks off and runs over to you. And he kind of waves you down. And he says, Mr. Burke?
Yes, son. Sorry if we were distracting you. We're having a quibble about some matters.
He's a young guy. He says, my name is John Basker. I actually served with Monroe during the Marlowe during the war. I was thinking about everything that you said before about the town being in danger, and
Powerful speech, was it not? I don't say that.
he kind of nervously looks around and he says, I just wanted to let you know, I think there is something going on in Black Valley. I've only lived there 3 years now, but
Kingsley walks over and he puts his hand on his shoulder and he looks deep into his eyes. A politician's look of trust.
he says, I noticed there's a church that goes on in the church certain nights. I never really looked into it, but it seems like there's a group of people that would gather there.
Gather outside of normal church business, you're saying?
Right. Yeah,
Some sort of...
Not a mass or anything like that, and kind of secretive. It seemed like a lot of people knew about it, but never talked about it, maybe.
Indeed, son. And do you know the name of any that would attend this? A man named Dawson? Any others in the town?
I don't. I never really looked into it. One of those things that seems best to just keep my head low and stay away from it. But the priest who runs the church, he must have known about it.
And that's Father...
That's Father Stewart.
I see. Were these meetings on the regular, on a day and time?
It seemed like it was maybe once a month.
Understand. I appreciate your candor, and you're wise to try to avoid these kind of entanglements. I ask you to keep your ears and your eyes open, and if anything comes more to your memory, your recall, I'm saying Mr. Marlowe's house, and I can extend myself and Mr. Marlowe's protection to you and yours for any information you might have to help not just his life, but the very life of your town.
Just thank you, sir. I know where to find you.
You're doing the right thing here, son. We're in this together. You understand?
Then you give him
Typical
the world's-
politician.
you give him
All
the
right, we're
world's
done now.
Softest handshake.
Now, what was your name again? I was not paying attention.
So, moving right along, after we've moved the dangerous explosive chemicals, you guys are on the trail again, on the train tracks, heading back west towards Black Valley. Probably continuing to kind of go around in circles on this whole debate.
Kingsley is very much keeping to himself right now.
Okay, all right. So it's about 5:00 in the afternoon when you get to the split where the tree is. I know you guys had mentioned that you wanted to go talk to his mom. So you guys get to that split in the road, and we'll pick it up there.
I think Silas, knowing that they're coming up to this point, has again gotten out his sketchbook in lieu of not having his camera equipment. And once they arrive, he kind of sets to drawing a sketch of this crossroads.
Okay. Did any of you mention to Marlowe that you wanted to go meet with his mother? I know we had talked about it out of game a little bit.
Maybe not until we start getting closer, and we
Okay.
we realized that we had probably discussed it on the way there between us, but maybe not with Marlowe himself.
Okay. Well, we can have that conversation now.
The crossroads is coming up.
Silas is kind of nodding his head slowly.
Marlowe, we think it would be a good idea to talk to your mother.
I was afraid of that.
She may have some insight into what is going on.
Silas is kind of sketching, and he kind of pauses and looks up, and he says, "Something has occurred to me. We have looked at this in the context of perhaps a family curse, if we are to be so bold in a claim, or coincidental. But what if it's neither? What if there is an outside force working on the Marlowe family? What if there is some hellish bargain that must ensure that the Marlowe legacy does not live past 50? Because we know now," he kind of looks out at the mountains, "that there are many involved. Not one, not some beast singular in its nature, but it is spread among the people, at least in this instance."
Marlowe's armed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kingsley says, perhaps you're right, Mr. Keene. Perhaps we are too quick to trust in matters of loyalty. Perhaps we must examine the motivations of all parties. If those in your very town, James, and those that you would trust could be in doubt of their motivations. Kingsley looks around meaningfully. I do not know that we should take for granted anyone.
Silas kind of nods absently.
Yeah? So you mean any one of us?
I mean anyone at all, including those of us.
It is clear that we are being, at least some of us might be being used. But it could be that this creature, whatever it is, could have control over people. Yeah? Could be working on its own, but it, I don't know.
If it were such a thing, it would explain the actions of Mr. Dawson and Mr. Baker. You described them as good men, General, did you not?
I did. So what you're suggesting is maybe they did this against their own free will?
Yeah, it is possible. So it is equally possible that they are all in some sort of cult, for lack of a better word, for this creature. Yeah.
Kingsley's eyes snap to you when you say cult.
I think that's what Silas was kind of getting at.
Silas is nodding.
Yeah. Well,
Multi-generational conspiracy. That's what you said, right? Right, Burke?
Kingsley is momentarily distracted. He sidles his horse up to Les and he says, "Look sharp, Mr. Kershaw. Look sharp." Kind of quietly under his breath.
Silas, while kind of that moment is happening, he says, "Were there community members that came with your family from Europe?"
Quite a few. Hundreds, in fact.
So there has been a community around your family for how long?
Well, my great-grandfather was a lord, a landowner. He had an entire community that were under him. And I don't know how far back that stretched.
His name was Vlad, yes?
But when my grandfather moved here, a lot of those people came with him.
So if there were some sinister element made by the people around you, one that has traveled with you, Silas shrugs.
Well, if that's the case, it means our most likely suspects are people who can trace their lineage back to England. Unless this cult has been recruiting.
well, in order to keep their numbers, it's perfectly reasonable to think that they would try to recruit any newcomers, yeah?
Your father was killed, James, was he not, by a ambush of Indians?
Let me check my notes real quick. That's right.
I'm sure they do not trace their lineage back. Perhaps their influence extends. Mr. Beauclair, you've not said much. What do you think on these matters of cults and dark influence?
There are possibilities. All curse. Whether it is from people or from something else.
There is something I want you to consider, Mr. Burke. Imagine you had won that seat, and you were a senator now.
Congressman, but I appreciate your optimism.
Imagine you had access to the state's treasury, and you signed an order, and then carried out all of those funds by yourself. Did you do such a thing?
Well, I was not in the position to do so. I did oversee many state projects and public funds.
Silas is nodding. Now that sense of incredulity, that sense of impossibility, that is what we feel when it comes to the mistakes that were made in our inventory list.
Well, Mr. Keene, I can assure you I took a lot more attention with the funds of the public than you seem to take with your own materials.
Those materials are impossible to buy in bulk the way they were.
I do not mean to split hairs with you, but the words impossible you speak of, if I am to trust that those barrels that you unloaded from that train were of that material, then I would say that's an inappropriate word to choose, because they indeed were obtained and loaded on that train. Now, as to the motivations, whether it was ill intent or perhaps oversight, those materials got their way on that train. They were obtained and loaded. And these are matters of clear. I mean, the evidence is right there.
But the level of orchestration and the complete unawareness that I have of this process taking place and him of the Gatling gun, that is the illogical nature of it, that there is something much larger at play. So unless we ourselves have been corrupted by this dark force, there are many at play in this game.
It's pretty clear that Kingsley has a clear disconnect of like,
How
you're just
right.
saying like you fucking like in his mind, you guys
We fucked up.
Yeah,
Like
right,
I mean,
right.
like there's nothing like you guys are like not to beat the point to
Sure,
death, but like
sure.
you're talking about some kind of influence, and he's like, you fucking put shit on the train and you signed a manifest,
Right.
Like there's no like possession that is
Yeah.
obvious here.
That's-
It's you're arguing things that are like. It's a conspiracy. It's like and either you're a part of it,
Yeah.
or like you're
Yeah.
dumb.
Right. That's why he was trying to create that scenario for you of like emptying the treasury. How ridiculous that sounds. That's what he was trying to kind of
Yeah, and you
impart.
get Kingsley's a decent actor as
Sure.
a politician, but it's clear to probably both of you as observant people his trust in the two of you.
Sure.
Like he clearly has
I shoot
shifted.
him, Jake.
Like
I shoot him.
he's physically staying closer to Marlowe and Kershaw.
Yeah.
Like he and you know Benton, he's never felt very comfortable with, but he's kind of surprised to
The
like
two science
he's
guys.
viewing the fucking science dudes as like
Well, science was weird back then.
unreliable, basically unreliable actors.
Yeah.
I mean, what? There's really no difference between magic and science.
True,
at this point,
true,
so-
not a lot.
So, Mr. Keene, are you suggesting somebody else bought all those chemicals and put them in the train in your name? I'm just trying to.
Silas nods. He says, to buy it in bulk in that quantity would be quite nearly impossible. Most places won't carry that amount because of how dangerous and volatile the chemical is. I myself, I do not carry more than a pound of it. The fact that there are 400 pounds, it's madness.
Madness, Miss Keene. Madness was these sniper rifles having appeared in the hands of these fellows.
Marlowe
And yet-
says, all right, we're talking around in circles. That's enough. Maybe you were possessed. Maybe someone just forged the documents. It doesn't matter. What matters is we caught it, and whatever the point was, it's not going to happen now, right? We can keep talking around in circles if you want, but we're getting close to the crossroads, so we need to decide where we're going.
I think the last thing that we need to do is to extend the opportunity for further things out of the reasonable realm of observation to enter into our minds at this point. He glances to the right way of the crossroads and kind of over most of his companions at this point.
Sorry, you mean you glance towards the way that will
Back
bring
to
you back
town.
to Black Valley?
No, like he glances to the right side towards the mother as like,
Yes.
let's not go to Crazy Town.
I see. Okay.
Because that's
You
how
don't want
he
to take
thinks.
the crazy train?
He looks at
nice.
If there is some spiritual answers we can get from his mother, some maybe even mundane answer about this curse, historic answer, yeah, then we will get it. We will take it with whatever seriousness we want to take it, but it is information nonetheless. Information we do not have yet. Yeah?
I do not know that any information we obtain will be worth the risk. Mr. Marlowe has already had one attempt on his life today. We're talking about setting foot into the lands of perhaps some of the kin of those who took his father's life, because they're all the same to me. I'm assuming they're probably different tribes, but
Yeah, definitely.
So just to metagame a little bit, Kingsley, like his mindset, and I don't want to force the game this way, but is basically like, I don't trust any of this shit. Marlowe's at risk. He's thinking of this conspiracy, not knowing who's involved. The thought of like going out to an Indian village just seems like a big risk.
Yeah.
And Craven.
Perhaps we do not all need to go. Splitting up the party, splitting up the party.
The town is not exactly the safest place, yeah? The attempt on Marlowe's life was happened within the town in his own factory. So, to my mind, there is perhaps an equal amount of risk going either way, yeah? One is a bit unknown, one is, well, still unknown, but we have experience at least.
Marlowe says, well, up that way, a couple miles, there's a old coal mine that's been flooded out, but there's a cabin up there. Should still be serviceable. We can spend the night there, and in the morning, anyone who wants to go further along and find my mother and speak to her can do that, and I'll wait in the cabin. No one's going to find us out there in the middle of nowhere. No one knows we're going.
This is acceptable to me, yeah?
Silas nods and says, I believe it will... I don't know what it'll do, but any information is better than none. Better than what we have.
What do you think, Les?
I think there best not be any barrels of photography chemicals in this cabin. I'll tell you what.
Silas smirks a little.
Und Benton?
Let us go. I made my choice the first time here.
Will you go with us, Kingsley, or will you go back to the town?
Kingsley looks uncomfortable.
You do believe in democracy, don't you?
I do think the most prudent option would be to return to your homestead, James, and to ensure the safety of your family as well. But if you think the risk is not to them and that we can isolate ourselves there, then I suppose that's just fine.
Jake, have we ever met his wife?
You have not met his wife, and you all together, like in game, have not met his wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we saw the kids, right?
You saw one of the kids.
Yeah.
So you guys head to the right. The path branches northwest, goes around to the northern part of Black Valley, and a couple miles up this path, you do come to a small cabin. So you get to this cabin, which at one point was probably on the outskirts of this coal mining operation, and you have to pry some wooden boards off of the door to get inside, and it's dusty and dark by now. So you light a lantern, make your way in, unpack all your stuff, and kind of settle down and look through your belongings to see if you have any food. You probably packed pretty light. You didn't plan on being out for very long, but between the six of you, you managed to find something to eat. And as you're all kind of sitting there unwinding, getting ready to go to bed, Marlowe comes over to Kingsley and he says, you may have noticed I've been acting a bit different. I'm usually kind of man that takes charge and makes sure things go my direction, my way. Well, I thought a lot about this, about what we're doing, about what happened to my family. And, well, I decided that if this is going to work, if I'm going to make it through this, we have to do something different. It can't be what the Marlowes have always done. That's why I asked all of you here. I want a different perspective. I want a different way of doing things. Because if it were up to me, I would barricade my house. I would set that Gatling gun up in a fixed position, make sure no one can approach, and we'd sit it out. But I imagine somewhere in my history, I've got a family member who tried to do the same thing, and from what I can tell, it never worked.
Well, James, I reckon I'm. If you don't feel yourself quite at ease, then just imagine the level of discomfort I find myself in delving into these matters. But I'm grateful that you reached out to me and that you would entrust me with this. I'm familiar in a way with each of these men, but there's no one here but you that I truly would say that I trust with my life.
I understand that.
And
I just want you to understand that the reason I wanted all of you here is because I want the different perspectives. I want you all have different ways of looking at the world. Very different. And we need that.
Fair enough. James, he kind of lowers his voice. I heard something from those workers. A possible, some sort of group meeting in secret in your own town. As much as we might be obviously stuck on unexplained matters and our minds are drifting to different things, and your openness to perspectives is impressive. Let us not look over the pure deception of men as willing enough.
This is the first I'm hearing about this, but if I'm being honest, I don't keep a close eye on what happens in town. But I am tending to lean towards you and Silas's idea of this being some sort of cult or passed down conspiracy. And meeting in secret in a church, I suppose that would make sense.
Well, I'll offer you all my insight, but unfortunately, I'm not my brother. So if matters come to a head, whether it's here amongst ourselves or with others, you're going to have to be ready martially.
I know that you don't feel comfortable talking to people like my mother, especially with some of the nonsense she is going to say. But that's exactly why I am asking you a personal favor to go along with them tomorrow. I want to hear everyone's perspective.
Very well, James. If that's what you ask, I will go.
I'll be fine here with Noah's rifle. All right. And we can pause it there, I suppose.
Sweet. Before we get eaten in the woods.
That will be the game of us.
Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Nastygram RPG podcast. A few quick thanks for our badass intro music, A Wilhelm Scream. They have an awesome new album, Lose Your Delusion. Go check it out. For our outro music, Adrian Von Ziegler. All scores are by Adrian Von Ziegler and Antti Marttikainen. No Dean on this arc, but if you want to listen to him, check out the great shows over at Liberty Street Geek, The Lost Drive-In, Kirking Off for your Star Trek love, and Mind Killer for some Dune talk. Lastly, guys, this is our 4th arc, and we are loving it. We have a lot more planned. To do that, we need you. You hear it all the time, but it's true. Podcasts won't exist without listeners, and we need your support and involvement. Ratings, reviews do make a huge difference, and so does telling people about the show. People that like role-playing game, people that like storytelling, anybody think that might dig this. So spread the word, spread the love, and we got a lot more coming. See you next week.